Lang Nature House Advisory Committee meeting minutes.
Move receipt.
Second.
All those in favor?
We just do it in unison.
We don't have any committee reports, so we'll move to unfinished business. Ask for receipt of management report.
Move receipt.
Second.
And are there any? All those in favor? And are there any questions or updates on that management report?
I have one, Your Worship, that the tender for the Marina Boardwalk project, which was supposed to close tomorrow, was extended just by a few days to early next week. There were some last-minute issues that some of the contractors were requesting additional time, so it has been extended to, I believe, Tuesday of next week, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Tuesday, Wednesday next week it is? Thank you for that update.
Go
Can I just have a question? Do we have a basic idea of timeline for that project? Or maybe we'll get into that later.
No, I can cover that off. That the construction is still slated to start early to mid-April with demolition, and majority of construction will happen through the summer and this fall, and it's not slated for completion much of the space available for nautical days, and they do
We'll see you tomorrow. I'll be there as well. Okay. Good. Moving on to special reports then. Comox Valley Regional District minute meetings. Receipt.
Move receipt.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, no bylaws, so we'll move to new business. First item for receipt, planning report, PR 16.4.
Move receipt.
Second.
All those in favor? And our CAO, do you want to just give us an update on that, or would it be wise to hear from our planner?
Well, it's always wise to hear from the planner, but I think that
I don't know about that.
I'll start the conversation by saying that to date, under the Downtown Vitalization Program, we have two applications. We have the Berwick Seniors Facility expansion that was recently done, as well as the Lorne Hotel. And given the budgeted figures that we have that would apply for reduced building fees and development application fees, we're still within the budget allocated of the $50,000. So what we're recommending and what's coming from the planning department is extending the program for another year, because the funds still are there to allow that to happen, and it can be reviewed at that point.
Thank you for that. Is there anything you'd like to add, our most wise planner?
No, other than from the planning department perspective, the input that we've been getting back from the business and development community has been quite strongly positive on the entire program.
Okay, thank you for that.
So there's is there a recommendation here, I think?
The recommendation on...
So I'll move the recommendation, number 2.
Second.
Second. All those in favor? Good, thank you then, that's passed. Now moving on to development variance permit, DPE 16-1 Comox Marina.
Move that we issue the development permit? Variance permit, sorry.
Second?
All those in favor? Any comment on that, CO?
No, this one is related to our waterfront project, and essentially it is varying two of the setback requirements, the front or the waterfront setback, and the west side setback from 6 meters to 2 meters, and the waterfront side from 7.5 to 3.5. This allows the buildings, the washroom building will basically be rebuilt where it is. The two other public assembly buildings will be built in the parking lot portion. And essentially what we're doing is we're keeping as much of the green space of the park intact and building on the asphalt portion and the existing construction portion.
So clarifying the setback requirement in order to keep our green space there.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
Just a quick question. Did we hear, because we referred it to the neighbourhood, did we hear anything back at all?
We have received a letter from Comox
Yes.
First Nation, and that's, as far as I know, the only comment that we've received.
And I think that comes up in correspondence a little later. So we'll later for that. Any other comments
Just
there,
a
Councillor?
question. Just refresh my memory. I know we had talked a little bit about maybe wanting to have an information kiosk kind of thing, and I think Stephen Kohlmeyer had suggested maybe combining that with the coffee shop. Am I correct with that? Are we still thinking along those lines?
Yes, that is part of the, we'll call it the Marine Services Building, I think is the name that we're giving it, which will house the washrooms, the office and workspace for the marina caretaker, as well as some rentable spaces, be it for a coffee shop or a combination tourist info kiosk. That is all part of that, as well as space for Compass Adventure. So it's going to encompass all of those features within that building.
And the other two buildings, I don't think I'm clear about, are they enclosed or are they open?
Both. They
There
are.
they are.
They have enclosed portions for approximately 60 to 70 people.
Okay.
Each one will be able to accommodate that many people, as well as an extended roof portion outside
Yes,
that
okay.
will allow for displays and use as well.
And is there an attempt to, I saw something on the drawing, but I wasn't sure if it was just a washroom or is it going to be like a little kitchen or anything there?
It's referred to as a warming kitchen, so it's not a full-on industrial or commercial-sized kitchen, but a small sink, a small stove, if you were hosting an event, you could warm or prepare things in terms of putting them out on a plate, but you're not going to be cooking a full-on meal in there.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions on that item? Okay, then we'll move on to correspondence. Correspondence, move for receipt is requested consent to exhibition grounds tax increase.
Move receipt.
Second.
All those in favor? And Arceo, you had a handout at the start of the meeting here. You just like to comment on this, your understanding from the CPRD?
Thank you, Your Worship. This is what I gave out to you is the frequently asked questions section, and it talks about why the requisition increase of 25% is needed, and essentially they're referring to they needed to help address long-term operating expenses, capital replacement costs. One of the items driving that was a roof replacement on their riding barn, which They had budgeted last year $50,000, but it turns out the roof is rotting, so they need to replace the whole structure, the roof structure, at a cost of $110,000. So there's some increased costs. There appears to be a facility that's tired and needs upgrading. And so that's driving it, as well as some longer-term expansion plans that they have that they're looking at having money set aside in reserves. And I'm not sure if the two directors at the regional district can offer anything on top of that I haven't.
I think you did it pretty much. I think that's what they're looking for. And, really it comes down to, they have an asset management plan and they're trying to keep up with that. And when you own stuff, you want to keep it in good shape, then you got to pay. And they're asking this so that they can keep up with the asset management plan.
And basically the maximum requisition as it now stands is we're just about at the limit. The proposed budget goes almost to the limit of the available requisition, so it doesn't give any flexibility for future growth and cost of living and all those increases. So we can do this. I think it's it's every 5 years
That's right.
that we can do this, and we don't. It just increases the amount we can requisition, but we don't need to take the maximum. It just gives that envelope that we can grow in.
So that our taxpayers understand this then, that this increase in requisition is a 1 year
Oh
increase?
no, it moves every service has a maximum amount that you can requisition from it. And you don't have to requisition anything, but you can't go over that. And so we got right up to the requisition that was set probably many, many years ago. So by adding this extra on, we've got some room to maneuver in the future.
The other alternative would be that every time they need to do something, you'd have to come and ask if they can bump it up by. So what they're saying is, give us some flexibility so we don't have to keep coming and saying.
Some checks and balances.
That's what it is.
Definitely.
Okay then, any other questions, Councillor Grant?
When I read 25%, that caused the eyebrows to raise, and I thought, what am I going to say to my neighbors when he asks me 25%? So what are we going to get for that 25%?
Well, you're not necessarily going to use the 25%. It's saying that they could requisition that much if they needed to, but they don't necessarily have to go to that number. So they'll requisition what they need to fix the roof, for example, or whatever it is, but they're asking for some flexibility in there so that if other issues do come up, they don't have to keep coming back and saying, hey, we need more, right?
So if that's the case, is it really necessary to go 25%? That really seems to be over the top.
I think that's the legislation.
That's as far,
That's what it is. I think it says every 5 years you can increase the requisition limit if you wish, and by going through the process of getting assent by 25%. So, I mean, I guess you could increase it by 10% if you wished. I don't think but that's what's stipulated. You can do that, and it isn't something that we do every 5 years. I've never actually been involved in an increase in requisition before, so it just that. It is a small amount of money that can be requisitioned, and we've got ageing facilities there which are increasingly used, and we don't have very big reserves either. So the two things, keeping up with what we have and also starting to put more money into reserves is the reason. It's only like $3.
It's $2.90
Yeah,
a house if they go to the max.
the increase.
Fair enough. I think Councillor Grant's question is a good question, however. We just received this information today for councillors to peruse and look at. The request is requesting consent. The correspondence came today requesting consent. We're going to consider that at a future council meeting, correct?
No, I think they're looking for it. Given their deadline for approving the regional district budget is the end of March. So I think they're looking for consent, or a consideration of consent, as soon as possible.
And again, not to throw an iron in the fire, I'm sure Councillor Graham and some of us would have appreciated this information earlier.
I think it is, it's in the report, it's on the agenda. This is on the agenda already.
So that I perhaps better understand it, as I see the chart that our Director of Finance put into our agenda, the exhibition grounds requisitions starting in '09 were 28,566. And by 2016, it's going to be 62,935. Is that what I should expect as far as dollars necessary for the exhibition grounds?
Percentage-wise, it does reflect a significant increase. And 2009, 28,000 for that whole site, given that there was a large investment in the electricals and in water. It's the site of Music Fest, and as demand for the site increases, also demand on the services. So I know the Area C director made a very impassioned speech yesterday at our meeting to encourage all our councils to approve this, in that we are an agricultural community, and this is the sort of the soul of the agricultural community, and that we do need to be investing in it, and that there is a lot of buildings down there that were built a long time ago, and so we have to stay on top of it, basically.
Yeah, I think that one of the issues is that it needed new fencing, they upgraded electrical, they did a lot of work in that time, so it wasn't like it was that, I know that that's a big dollar increase, but they did a lot of work for that had to be done. And it just comes down to me, to about if you own things, you should look after them. And I don't think that there was a really solid asset management plan in there, but that's what they've worked towards now, so that we're getting to the point where we start keeping up on these things rather than letting them run down and then get hit with the big bill. I think the roof on the riding ring is a classic example, right? That probably should have been looked after a few years ago, but it wasn't. And now the bill is double what it could be, right? So I think they're trying to get their handle on that, and I think that's why we're trying to go to this direction, so we don't get everything breaking down all at the same time. So I think that's the rationale.
And we will be reviewing the asset management report that was done in the past to see if it needs updating. And so I think with anything, it just needs a greater focus on it, and it's increasingly used with the horse shows and the dog shows, and it's also a park. People greatly appreciate that it's a beautiful place to go down to the river, meeting place.
To try and bring this to a conclusion then, I'd like to follow up on Councillor Kendran's point that here in the discussion here today, there's some reservation, but we do value and understand asset management. Perhaps in the future there can be an asset management plan that's brought to our council to justify in advance us looking at allocating these funds. We'll show some faith this time, perhaps, but look to have an asset management plan that we can look at before determining any future.
And they are in the midst of updating that right now, so right on cue.
Yes.
Okay.
That would be very helpful. We needed this. Thank you.
Okay, so then are we prepared to endorse this?
I will move the recommendation that we have reviewed.
Okay, so all those in favor? Against? Carried.
So just for clarity, Your Worship, the motion that was just approved was the motion to receive, or?
Well, if you read it, says that council received the report requesting
Requesting
consent.
consent.
Yeah, so you've received the
So we
report.
received the letter that requests consent.
So now, if you wish to consent,
We need to-
I'd ask that you pass that the town of Comox consent to the adoption of CVRD bylaw number 419, being Comox Valley Exhibition Grounds Service Conversion Bylaw number 136, 2010, amendment number 1.
I'll move that.
Thank you.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you for clarifying that, Seal. The next item of correspondence for receipt is a Comox Valley Water Service bylaw amendment.
So this is actually not for receipt, this is to consent to the adoption of the, so I'll move the recommendation.
Second.
So this is about taking water down to the First Nations campground and also for HMCS Quarters, so, because it's outside our jurisdiction. This is more of a Courtney thing, but they need our consent.
And it's sort of legalising it too, because water's already going down to Quadra, and so it's sort of tidying up the bylaw, as well as creating that ability to go to the embassy.
I'm just going to refer to Donald here for a second for clarification.
Your Worship, HMCS Quadra and its service was already in the original bylaw, so the portions that are being added are the portions that in my copy of the bylaw were highlighted in red, which is just redistribution by the City of Courtney to Comox First Nations Indian Reserve number 2.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So that will cover it then. Good, so we had that, it was seconded. All those in favor? Okay, carried. And there was a third late item for correspondence received from Chief Councillor, Comox First Nations, Robbie Peterson. Can I have a motion to receive that?
Move receipt.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, that is the end of our correspondence. We have no late items at this point, and no delegations. Time now for reports from members of council. And I'll start with Councillor Ken Grant if I could.
Sure. Yesterday I attended the sewer commission meeting in which we had quite a lengthy discussion over pump station number 2 and where it should be located. We had a staff report that showed that the Croto Beach site that we picked wasn't a very good site for several different reasons, and it was then decided that we put our energies towards the Beach Street site and get staff to start moving along with that, and we asked that they get enough information together that they can schedule an open house to go to the public with that in approximately 3 months. So, and Councillor Price is the chair of that, so I'll allow her to finish it if there's more details she wants to give. We also had water yesterday, where we got an update from the consultants regarding where a treatment plant could go on the lake and what kinds of treatment. It's very initial. There's lots of different options and areas. It sounds as though, when I first read the report, I thought, wow, we're going to save a lot of money, but that didn't include the intake into the lake or the land component. So when you add those, it actually got us pretty close to the same, the area that we've been talking about in the 70 million range. And there was a motion made at that meeting that by Councillor Erickson of Courtney regarding putting a dam on the Crookshank. And after some discussion on that, it was decided that we would get the staff of the regional district to look into how much a study, or how much it would cost to get a study done on that, because it seems like, that could be an enormous amount of money, and we don't want to spend a whole lot of time and effort and energy. I didn't think that it was necessary to do that, but that's the wish of the board. And then we had the committee of the whole meeting yesterday, where we talked mostly about what we just talked about here today. So with that, I'll pass it along.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Swartz.
Okay, I had a meeting with Chief Everson and council regarding the totem pole at the Philberg, on the Philberg property. The totem pole is falling into disrepair, and we were seeking some advice from them on how to proceed. At the end of the meeting, Rob did mention that the Camp-In is committed to producing 2 poles a year to place on their lands, and perhaps if we were interested, we could make an application. And I was thinking, well, we'll see where this goes. They've got their sites for this year, so this could be a future possibility. And maybe a nice collaboration between the town, the Philburg, and Camp-In, but we'll see. And then I attended the regular Philburg board meeting, and the AGM is on the 19th at 2 o'clock at the lodge, if any of you are interested. And I attended the 3rd meeting of the Matt Lang Advisory Group. And Al Fraser opened up Shakeside so that we were able to tour through it and see what kind of condition it was and see where our imagination would take us. We brainstormed a few possibilities, which we will continue to develop at our next meetings. And then I attended the regular sewage committee meeting yesterday. And we'll let our chair
However, if she pleases.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, so I also was at the Sewage Commission, and I think the one of the major factors is to get the release of that right-of-way that's in with the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure. We had to be demonstrating public support, and we, in the meeting, we received another 43 letters, which brought it well over 600 letters from people from all over Comox, Courtney, Area B, all over the Comox Valley and elsewhere, saying this is not appropriate. So getting that consent, I don't know how we'd ever proved that there was a buy-in to the project. Also, given that it's such a narrow site, configuration of the site, and that it was below an elevation that was deemed optimum for the pump station, meant that it would be just verging on standards, but very low. That because of the capacity of the tanks, the holding tanks, given that you can only go down so far. So yeah, it was a very, very difficult decision, and we did learn too of the consequences of inaction, given that this not only takes the line off the beach, it also increases the capacity of the Courtney pump station. And the question was asked, what happens if that capacity isn't increased? And we could have a serious problem. It explained that we have already exceeded, it has been working at overcapacity, particularly when you have heavy rains, because there is some crossover in pipes.
And it actually did start to back up a little bit last year, so we were really close. And if it backs up, you know what happens, it's just sewage out the manholes.
Yeah,
so.
and and like it would be superstore area of town, because that's a low point, I guess. So, I mean, we could fix the pump station on its own, but then that does not address the problem with the beach, which we cannot say if or when it would go, because it could last for years and years and years in the exposed state it's in, or it could go in the next storm. I mean, that's the nature of a catastrophic event. You really don't have a warning. It's either working or you've got a disaster. So, and we have really put a lot of energy into looking for a site. The previous sewer commission started out with 100 sites and came down to, and that's when they bought the Beach Street one. And then when the commission changed, and we all learned about the Beach Street site, we went back to the community, worked with the community to find an alternative. The alternative we came up with is is going nowhere. So, you know, time is an important element in this, and the reassurances in it, the hydrology report didn't red flag any concerns hydrologically. Obviously, if there was a failure with the system, there's more people downstream of the Beach Street site. But our engineer at the regional district basically said it will be built to such a high standard that, you know, if there was an earthquake of a magnitude that would affect the line or the building, the whole of Croto Beach would be flattened at that point. So I definitely feel that we have got the assurances that it can be safely done, and we will certainly work with the community to have the highest standards and highest design standards. And you know, I've seen photos. I haven't been to other pump stations in residential areas, but Councillor Swift was just showing me the Oak Bay one, and it looks like a bungalow, nice little garden. And so I know people have fears, and it's a very traumatic and difficult thing for the community, and so at least I think we're going to have some closure, and we will do our very best to have an outcome that you know, people can hopefully see that their fears are.
So Councillor Price, did you mention earlier there was going to be one final public meeting?
There will be once. Now we have, you see, originally we were going into a public meeting for the beach access site to show the ministry support, and basically...
Right.
And design and what the building
Yeah.
can look like, and we were going to take that to the public. We'll now do that. We'll go to the Beach Street site and do it off that one, but it'll take I think it was three, did you say?
3 months.
2 to 3
Yes.
months to get that
Yeah.
So,
information.
2 or 3 months.
So we will have, you know, a
That was
site
right, I missed.
layout and actually
Yeah.
things that people can look at and work with the community on the way we can make it the best fit possible.
Do you happen to remember, you may or may not, but if that line were to rupture on the beach, it's really difficult to shut off if you even can. Like, I mean, you just pump sewage until you can, and it can take sometimes weeks if you can even shut it off at all. So that's the danger, is that, you know, you get a high storm, the log comes and hits that, and that's all it would take, right? So as you say, you don't know if or when that could happen, but it could happen tomorrow, or it might not be for years. But if it does, then there's just raw sewage going right into your bay. So that's the danger, right?
And shellfish industry and the Comox First Nations shellfish industry down there. And I did talk to our engineer previously about that very thing. How could we shut it down? And the only way we can shut the system down is to turn the water off. Because if you don't have water coming into your homes, you can't be flushing. But to shut off the water supply to 40,000 people is something. It's a situation that, with all responsibleness, we cannot
Let's
delay.
not find out.
We don't find out.
Anyhow.
We call the military.
Thank you for your report on that.
Yeah. But it was a very, very difficult decision, and I feel for the community, and I really feel that we can do a good job, and that when the dust settles, it's not going to be the fear that people have. So that was yesterday, and we had a
That was probably yesterday.
yesterday. And we also had the water committee, which Councillor Grant mentioned. We had the presentation. It is interesting, the different filtration methods, and there is a public meeting tonight at 6:30 to hear his presentation too. And then he will be coming back to us with recommendations and more exact costs. So more to come on that. And and also I was at the Regional District Committee of the Whole.
So that meeting tonight is at the Westerly, is that right?
I believe so. It was there last time. There is a attempt or desire to have as much public involvement in the process. I also attended a meeting of the Comox Archives and Museum meeting meeting of. Unfortunately, in hearing your date for your AGM, we also have scheduled that the opening of the official opening of the 102nd Battalion exhibit is on the 19th of March also.
At what time, Bart?
2 till 4.
Okay.
And then we have our AGM the Saturday before on the 12th of March at 2 p.m. I also went to the Cycling Coalition AGM and presented on cycling infrastructure in Comox and what we've been doing in Comox. It was good. We had a cross-section. We had the Mayor of Nanaimo talking about the trails, and Regional District, Courtney, Cumberland and Comox, what we're all doing to help cycling. And that is my report.
Thank you. Councillor Grant.
Big news. Thank you very much. My report is very brief. Just, I also was in attendance on the tour to Shakeside. The first time I'd been through the building, and I was rather impressed. It was in better shape than I ever considered it to be, certainly for 65 years old. And it was also very obvious that water is an issue for the building, and so there's much more discussions yet to come. Also, our librarian, Nancy Duncan, is moving to Ontario, which I'm very sad to see. She's been a real asset to the library, and it's going to be very sad to see her go. I'll be attending her farewell tea on Saturday. And that's my report. Thank you.
Nice, thank you, Councillor Grant. I'll try and be brief. A few things that I've attended. I was at a couple of Homeless Coalition meetings as the council rep there. I attended the Iona Campanile lecture series sponsored by the Community Justice Center here in town at the Stanhagen Theatre last week. Stan Robinson was the ex-MP, was the guest speaker with Iona Campanile present and talking about restorative justice. Attended the Anna dinner auction on Friday. Attended a student mock job interviews at Lake Trail along with some service club and local politicians this week. Attended a social planning committee meeting yesterday in Courtney, and last night and yesterday afternoon the Comox BIA meeting here in Comox, and we covered a few things there. I won't go into all of them, but some of the highlights were reviewing the successful summer paddle night that they had last year, looking at their contribution to the water park, and Councillor Grant has also mentioned there's a meeting about that tomorrow here in the council chambers, as well as signage to downtown, wayfinding signage, and last but not least, they have completed a new updated walking tour guide of Comox Valley, which is going to be available throughout the Comox Valley, but I've got a copy for each of the councillors here, as well as I've left some in the town office. They've had them on display in the past there for visitors that are coming here, and it is a great pamphlet and great for visitors in particular, but also promotes our businesses here in the town, and it's a very well done brochure, so please I'll pass around copies here to councillors. And encourage people, members of the public, to pick up one either at the town office or at Visitor Center. And that concludes my report. For all the reports, for that matter, are there any questions from the media today? Well-behaved media today. Are there any
saw the show yesterday.
Are there any questions from the public? Yes, sir.
Just wondering regarding the proposed meeting that Councillor Grant spoke about regarding Beach Road. Will that be a public information meeting only, or would that be for public to give thoughts on proposals or moving forward? I think it'll be a public information meeting only, but we haven't really determined the parameters yet, but that would be my take. Okay, thanks.
And to clarify again, you said 2 to 3 months was the...
Approximately, yeah. So that's more details to follow.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions from the public? We are now going to, I'm going to ask that we get a motion for an in-camera meeting here. We have an item on in-camera. It's been moved, seconded. All those in favor? So according to
Section 90.
Section 9 of the community charter, I will ask members of the public and press to leave now, or so we can have our in-camera meeting.
I'm sure you really